After both developers placing the changes, this file will have which person changes. Simple logic. Both of them got the file at the same time. Then A kept his changes first. Then B kept his changes. So once both are done with their changes, the file will have which person changes. A kept the file first, Rakesh. A made the changes on day 1. B kept the changes on day 2. Person B changes will be there, isn't it? Because what is happening here, person B is overwriting the changes of person A, isn't it? Am I correct? Because see, this is not happening consciously. B doesn't know that is overwriting changes of A. Correct? Both of them don't know this is happening. So developer B is overwriting changes of A. This may keep on continuing. Imagine you are working with a team of 10 developers. So this may keep on going. Correct? So what happens if this keep on going? Project gets messed up, corrected after some time, isn't it? So how to avoid this problem? We need a system which can allow developers work simultaneously, parallelly. Means it should not allow this overwriting happening. Rather, it should inform us. Means we need a system which can allow developers to work parallelly, to work simultaneously on the same code, right? So they cannot do this manually, isn't it? They will be developing the logic, they'll be working on the code changes, they'll be working into the requirements and all. They cannot take care of this manually, isn't it? So that's where version control system comes in, means that's one of the use cases where version control systems comes in. So it can allow developers work parallelly. It will not override changes of others. It will help you collaborate well. That's what version control system does. Understood? And then what else? Is that the only thing? Many other things. Apart from this, we also need a system which can help you have a detailed logging. What is meant by logging? Log files. What are log files? What is meant by logging?
Activity performed at different timestamps, madam.
Yeah, like we need to know which person did what changes, isn't it? Means we need a system which can help us have a better log. Means I need to know like what changes were done by which developer. Means let's say, okay, developer made some changes to p1.java on line number 6 at 8:15 p.m. today. So I should have this kind of detailed logging, including the person name, including the changes they have made. So that what happens, I can revert whenever I want. Means let's suppose, okay, I made these changes. Okay, something went wrong, 8:30 application crashed. I want to bring it to the previous state. So what I can do, if I have this kind of detailed logging, I can remove this so that the system will be back. Correct? So this is again possible through version control system. Means version control system helps developers work parallelly or help them work simultaneously. Right? It helps to have detailed logging of your changes happening. Right? Also, not only that, it should allow taking backup of the files. Means let's say you are working on p1.java. Okay, it's some version 1. Client came and said, just modify and make a version 2. So you have overwritten this file, just edited the same file and made version 2 of it. So version 1 is gone. There is no more version 1. After few months, client may want this old version, but you have deleted it. Means a lot of rework. You need to work on it again, develop the previous version, isn't it? So don't ever delete the versions. Maintain the versions. Maintain V1. Have a copy of it and modify it and make version V2. So that will allow us to have backup of the files, maintain the versions. That's what a version control system does. See, you need not worry about what is this Java file and all. It need not be Java. Any file, any text files can also be version control. Here we are learning the concept of version controlling. Okay, we are not getting into the concept of writing Java file and all. Okay, understood what a version control system does? Harshita and everyone, anyone new to version control system, just want to know the statistics. How many are new to version control systems? Anyone already working? Okay, let me ask this. Anyone already working it?
No, madam,
Working on
not me.
version control? Okay, all right. So yeah, but you all have got an understanding, right? What a version control system is. Because developers develop lot of programs, they keep on writing lot of code. There should be a system which can manage it. Okay, and one more important thing, it's not only used by developers, isn't it? Even testers writes a lot of test scripts, automation testing. For automation testing, they do write lot of code. So even those files can be version control. Similarly, ops teams also have some configuration files, or else they may be having some script files, or else ops teams, when they use configuration tools, they might be writing some code, right? So even they can be version control. Like I said, any text file, any static files can be version control. Means not only developers, everyone should learn this tool how to manage your huge number of files or programs. Okay, that is what we are learning here, how to version control your files. Okay, we are not learning Java or writing programs, but first let's learn from the point of managing your files, right? But it's called as a developer tool because it is mandatory for them. They definitely will write programs and they'll use this to version control them. So it's more called as a developer tool, but everyone should know how it works. Right? Now that we understood what a version control system does, let us see the types of version control systems. Based on the architecture, these version control systems were categorized. So how they were categorized? As centralized version control system and distributed version control system. So what is that? Let's see. See, if you look into the centralized architecture, see, there is a remote repository, or else this is called as a remote repository or central repository where all the code is kept. Okay, and this is the workstation of every developer: developer 1, developer 2, developer 3. Right? Each one will be working on the central. Means each one will be connected to the central repository and get the changes to their local computer, make changes, and put the changes back. So that's how it works, which is called a centralized version control system, right? So they pull the code from remote, make changes, and put the changes back. This is how they work. For some reasons, if there is no network connectivity, or else let's say network got disconnected, right? If there is no network connectivity, or if for some reasons network got disconnected, entire work is halted, isn't it? You cannot proceed further, entire work is halted. So that's a drawback with this kind of architecture. One thing is network issues. If no network connection, entire work is halted. The second problem is, see, you are working on this remote or else central location, right? And if this central server is crashed or lost, entire data is gone. Chances of recovery are very less, isn't it? Because you cannot recover the changes easily. Because changes are gone forever. Means it's like a single source of truth. You are having a copy only here. It's a single source of truth. So if this is crashed, that's all. So these are the two problems of this kind of architecture. Right? But yeah, there are many tools with this architecture: SVN, TFS, Perforce, all this comes under centralized version controls. Here everyone with the centralized version control system architecture. Now let us talk about another architecture which can overcome the problems of the centralized version control systems. That is distributed version control system. See here, in distributed version control system, there will be a central server or remote server where all the project would be kept, all the project code base would be kept, and this is the workstation of each developer. Okay, this is the workstation of developer 1, this is the workstation of developer 2, and so on. Right? Every developer will create a copy of this remote and work on it. Okay, this is called as local repository. Right? Every developer will have a copy from remote and create a local repository. And they will be working on this local repository. Okay, they make changes on local. So once the changes are done, they'll push to remote. So this is how it works. And here how it is happening. To be more specific, actually they don't work on again this local repository. They'll be working on another directory or a folder. Okay, once they made changes here, they'll push to local. And from local, they push to remote. Right? So this is how a centralized version control system works. The advantages are, see, you need network connections only to get a copy from remote and push your changes to remote. Okay, if you are working here, you don't need any changes. Means I mean to say here, even though there is no network connection, even though network is disconnected, you can still continue working here, right? Entire work is not halted. Of course, push or pull, you need network connectivity, but still you can continue working here. Once connections are restored, you can move your changes to remote and get the changes from it. Am I correct? So that's how distributed version control systems work. And so no network connectivity required. Of course, network connectivity required only to push and pull. These are less frequent commands because once complete changes are done, we push to remove, isn't it? So no network connection required. Also, if this central server is crashed, because every developer, this is developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, because everyone is having a copy of remote, chance of recovery are low. Correct? Every developer is having a copy, so chance of recovery are also more. Another advantage is also that, see, most of the times we work on this local repository in our computer. So it works really faster because to work with this local, you need to access your hard disk, that's all. Am I correct? So it works really faster and yeah, no network connections required, your chance of recovery are more. So that's how distributed version control systems work. Got it clear, all of you? Means remember, in distributed version control systems, you'll have two repositories, remote repository and local repository. Okay. And the best example for distributed version control system is Git. Our Git falls under distributed version control systems. Other tools under this category are Mercurial, Fossils, and so on. Git falls under the distributed version control system. Got it clear? Understood the architecture, everyone? And one more important thing. See, unless you push your changes to remote, if your changes are here, no one else can see the changes. They are confined only for yourself. Only once you move your changes here, other developers, other collaborators can see the changes. So that's the architecture of distributed version control system. And yeah, Git when compared with other tools, you can see the graph of Google Trends, the latest graph. Git is very widely used when compared with any other tools like SVN, GFS, and so on. So it's a clear winner in the category, and we are learning that in our course. And then comes architecture of Git in particular. So shall we proceed to the architecture? Are you all clear with this part? Can I get a quick confirmation from all of you or any questions, any confusions? Okay, now let's move ahead. Thank you for confirming. So yeah, let's talk about the architecture of Git. See, just now we discussed in Git there will be local repository and remote repository, isn't it? So here if you see, yeah, see this is a local repository. This is a Git local repository and this is a remote repository, right? So how work happens here? See, like I said, here is all the project work is kept. We'll copy from here and create a local repository. Again, like I said, you are not, see, imagine this is like a directory or a folder. You are not directly working on this folder again. Okay. You will be working on another, a separate directory called working directory. You make all your changes here, you put all your code here, you make the changes here. And again, you cannot directly push your changes from your working directory to local. That's not possible. You cannot do that. Rather, how you should move your changes? First, you should move your changes from working directory to staging area. Staging area is like a virtual layer between working area and local repository. Okay, it's like a virtual layer between your working directory and local repository, right? So this staging area is also called as index area or a staging area, whatever you call. It's like a virtual layer. First, you need to move your changes from staging area. From here, you need to move to local, right? From local, you can move to remote. Means it's like a 3 step before your changes goes to remote. Only once your changes goes to remote, others can see your changes. It's like a 3-tier architecture. Understood, everyone? Here, all of you. So that's how Git architecture works, and that's how your changes go through the different layers. And another interesting part is, let me tell you an interesting part here. Your working directory, local repository are physically the same directory. Isn't that sound interesting? See, actually it's the same directory. Then why are you calling it as working and why are you calling it as local repository? See, the same directory, physically same but logically different. Meaning, let me tell you. Suppose there is a folder or a directory. Okay. So this directory is called as a local repository, let's say. Okay. Now, if you have just created the file there, I have just created a file, some Java program. If you have just created a file or placed the file there, means it is said to be in the working directory. It is said to be here. Then if you run the command called git add on that file, then it is said to be in the staging area. Then if you run another command called git commit, then it is said to be in the local repository file. Right? Just if you just keep a file there means it doesn't mean that it's in local repository, right? Straight away. No. First it will be in working directory. Means it's a physically the same folder. But if you have just placed it, means placed it, didn't add it, means we call it like it is said to be in the working directory. And then once you add it, it is said to be in the staging area and so on. This is how it works. Understood the concept, everyone? Got it clear? Thank you, Rakesh, Pradeep, everyone for confirming. So this is the architecture of it. Now we'll go to our lab. Okay, we'll see how to create a local repository, how to create a staging area, how to create a working directory. We shall see all these things in detail. Okay, so before we get into the lab, any questions, let me know. What we'll do is, first we'll create a local repository. Okay, then we'll talk about how you move your changes from working to staging, from staging to local, how this happens. We are going to see. Then later on, we'll see how to place your changes to remote. Okay, let me tell you one more thing here. Another interesting point you need to make a note of. See, if you see, this local repository can be created in two ways. The scenario, the use case could be, let's say you join the team. Let's say whatever team it is, let's say there's already some project on remote. Okay, already they were working on it, already project on remote. You can copy from remote and create a local repository. Copy from remote and create a local repository. That's one method. Okay, and the other method is, let's say there is nothing on remote, it's a new project, we have to develop the code base and push to remote. So then what you will do, you will create a local repository manually. Means create a local repository manually in an empty repository, then develop the code base and push to it. Right, we'll look into both the scenarios. First we'll take up this, we'll learn Git from basics till advanced concepts. Shall we go on? Any more questions from anyone? Okay, so now what shall we do? We shall go for our lab setup, install Git and start working with it. Yeah, let's get started. And coming to the lab setup, we are going to do all the hands-on on some AWS instances. So you should have a free account on AWS. I have already shared you documentation on how to create your lab, like how to create an AWS account. If you are new to AWS, you can see how to create a lab there. One second. Let me share the document. You should have an AWS account created. Of course, a free tier account you can create. And how to create an account, it's again simple. Like you'll be taken through the steps when you start creating an account. How to create an account, everything, including the screenshots, were available here. This is the document I have shared you. Yeah, follow this and create a free account. There it will be asking for some your address, some payment details and all, like credit card information, but it will not deduct any amount. Just a nominal amount of 1 or 2 rupees will be deducted. So go through these steps. I have placed everything with the screenshots. Go through it and create your lab. Yeah. So go through these steps and create an account. Yeah. Here you can see create an account under free tier. Once you create your account and log in, you will see a console like this. Okay, I'll share you the document. Just follow the steps and create an account. Once AWS account is created, you can go to your EC2 service. You will see the dashboard like this. Just come here. You'll be asked to sign in. It's a free tier account. Like for 1 year, you can use EC2 services, like certain service of AWS for free. See this dashboard here, there will be so many options. You don't need to worry about all the options. We're looking into the relevant options, whichever required for us. Here, go for the instances. Click on instances. You will see all the VMs on AWS. Instances are nothing but virtual machines on AWS, which we'll be using for our lab purpose. In the beginning, if you are launching it for the first time, you don't see any instances here. Just launch the instances. Launch the instance. Once you launch the instance, here you can see Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So go for it. Amazon Linux 2 instance is nothing but the instance which is optimized by AWS. Right? So just go with this. And this Amazon Linux 2 instance is CentOS Red Hat based. There are so many distributions in Linux, right? CentOS Red Hat based are the best ones to practice. So Amazon Linux 2 is CentOS Red Hat based one. So select the instance. See here, you can see here there are 6 steps or 7 steps to create the instance. Okay, I am showing you the steps. Even those steps are also there in the documentation. Here I have given all the steps how to create an instance, launch an instance, everything were there. Okay, after the class, go through this document and set up your lab. If you are already already using AWS instance, that's perfectly fine. So that you can just create your instance very quickly. So just go here, select the AMI type, like which AMI you want, and then choose the instance type. Like you can see here, T2.micro instance, right, which is free tier eligible, which will means it shows you like what is the size of your instance. It supports one virtual CPU and 1 gigs of memory. This is enough for our class, and it also it's free tier eligible. So go for the next step. See, the third step is configure an instance. Just leave the default ones. You don't need to make any change here. Go to storage. Here also no changes needed. Then add tags. As of now, no need of any tag as well. Go for configure security. Okay, here you can see you can create a security rule. Okay, by allowing SSH, like you can just create a new security group, allow SSH traffic, and click on review and launch. You can do the same, right? I already have a rule. I am adding it. If you are new, if you are creating first time, just create it. And then review the instance and launch the instance. It will show you all the steps with whatever we have given. Just launch the instance. And now, yes, it will be asking us to create a key pair. Okay, we can proceed with the existing key pair. I have already a key pair. I can choose it. Or else, if you are doing it for the first time, what you should do? Click this, select this option. Create a new key pair. Give some key pair name. Let's say new key. Okay, give some name like a new key, and also you need to download the key pair. Okay, let me show you. Or else, okay, I have already the key pair downloaded. Let me show you that. So I have downloaded that into a folder called SSH keys. See here, this is my key file, right? Actually, PEM file will be downloaded. A PEM file will be downloaded when you do this. Okay, let me do it anyway for you. Okay, I'm creating a new key pair. Yeah, download the key pair. Your key pair will be downloaded in the form of PEM file. So download this. A PEM file will be generated. Yeah. Now just click on launch instance. That's all. Instance will be ready. So you can see the instance getting started. Can you see that? This is our instance. Yeah. Can you all see the instance? If anyone new, follow these steps and create your instance. So let it start, and see it was showing you the public IP address. Yeah, every instance will have the public IP and private IP, when to use what IP, we'll talk about it. So anyway, our instance is ready, right? Now that our instance is ready, just give me a minute. Let me show you only running instances so that it will be more clear for you. So, okay, instance is ready, means virtual machine is ready. It's running on AWS. We are not having any burden on our computer. Now you can connect to this, right? So how do you connect? You can connect from PuTTY, okay, or else on different methods you can connect. An easiest way, let's suppose you want to connect it very quickly in the simple method. Okay, select the instance. You will see a connect button here. Can you all see the connect option? Click on it. Okay, you will be taken to this page, connect to instance, and click on connect. That's all. You will be connected to your EC2 instance from your Windows or from your laptop. And see, can you see that? So you can run any commands now. You can switch to root user. Sudo su hyphen will help you switch to root user. From EC2 user, you can switch to root user. That's all. Now you can run any commands on what corner. That's the simplest way of connecting. There is another way to connect. Shall I show you connection from Putty? Yeah. See, now I have an instance. If you are looking to connect it from Putty of your Windows, yeah, you need to have a PEM file. We downloaded the PEM file few minutes back. Do you remember we have got the PEM file downloaded? Just go to that file. Just make sure you have the PEM file downloaded. Yeah, here is the PEM file. Yeah, new key.pem. It's there, right? So now you can connect to this instance from your local computer through Putty. You have to install this Putty. Download and install. The download link I have placed it in the document again. Okay, download it and install it. You will see the Putty like this. Okay, now to connect to the instance, this Putty acts as PPK file, private key file. It needs the file in the form of PPK. But how to get the PPK file format? Again, you need to install something called PuttyGen. Go here, PuttyGen. Right? So you go for the PuttyGen here, and then just let's come here and download this. Yeah, Putty key. Even this link is also there in the document, in the lab document. Make sure you're downloading PuttyGen. It is showing installing how to use PuttyGen. PuttyGen download. Yeah, download PuttyGen on Windows. So my laptop is Windows machine. Download this PuttyGen. Will generate a key file using this PuttyGen. One minute. The now download link is available here. It was loading a bit slowly. This is for Putty. Meanwhile, it starts to here. See, once you download this PuttyGen, you can generate a PPK file using this PuttyGen. See, this is how it looks like. See, Putty key generator. Putty key gen is nothing but Putty key generator where you can generate a PPK file from the PEM file we have downloaded. So what you should do, see here. Okay, it's showing download links. Click on generate. Okay, first load the PEM file and click on generate. So that PPK file will be generated. You should save into your system. Using that PPK file, you can connect to your system. Actually, PuttyGen is not downloading here. Actually, this is not the one. Let me try. Okay. That's all putty download. The screenshots are loading very slowly. Can you see here? Generate the key pair and download the PuttyGen. Yeah, here it is. PuttyGen.com. Here is the link. Maybe let me try this. It was again the same. Mm. Just try once from your end. Can you try to download it from here? Maybe firewalls are blocking. Can anyone try downloading the link? Is this link working? Uh, 1 second. Let me give the link. Here in the chat window, I'm sending the link. Just let me know if you download the file or is it only for me? Or is it the same for everyone? Just check once, please. Got the link, all of you? Can you try downloading this region on Windows? If you are on Windows, just try connecting it. Hello, have you got the link? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Praveen. Is this working? This is Putty Gen download or Putty download link. Okay, let me try. No, it's a Putty download link. It's Putty is downloading there. It's okay. I'll provide you the link. Okay, once you is it working, Rakesh? Okay, maybe some firewall is blocking for me. Okay, once you download the PuttyGen, see here, these are the steps you need to follow. Okay, here load the PEM file. We have downloaded the PEM file, right? Load this new key.pem file and then click on generate a new key file. See here the screenshot. You should follow these steps. This is Putty document. Yeah. So follow the screenshot. Can you see that I have added this in the lab setup document? So generate the key file. Then what happens? You will get a PPK file. It will ask you to save the private key file. Okay, you should be saving it in this format. For me, it's not downloading for some reasons. Anyway, I have already a key file generated, a PPK file generated. I'll use it. Yeah, see, you will see file generated or downloaded in this format. Right? It should be PPK extension. So now why we need it for Putty, for using Putty to connect your instance, you need this PPK file format. So here give the private public IP of your instance. Once you go to your instance again, go to your instance, AWS instance page. Yeah. Here once you select the instance, get the public IP, put the IP address of your machine, and then here come to SH or give browse the PPK file. That's what you need to do. Right? Try once from your end. Okay, I could not download PuttyGen on my system. Once try it from your end. Anyway, all these steps, how to generate PPK file, everything are there in the lab setup document. Yeah, select this PPK file. See here, you should select the format of PPK file. Then you can select it. Use that to open the session. Here it will not work because that's the key file for another instance. But that's how you should launch. Got it, all of you? Understood? So this is how you connect. You can connect via PuTTY or else you can connect via browser-based connect. Whatever is comfortable, convenient for you, you can go with it. Right? As of now, I'm using this browser-based connection. Let me refresh it. Now our instance is ready. We are logged into it. Now let us install Git and start working with it. We have discussed about the Git architecture, right? How different layers work. Let's see. Let me switch to root user. See, I became root user on this instance. Now let's check if we have Git. See, it says Git command not found. So let us install Git. Here we shall install Git. Ours is a CentOS based or Red Hat based system, right? So we'll be installing the packages using the default package manager called Yum. Yum is the default package manager for CentOS and Red Hat based systems. Using Yum, we shall install Git. Yum install Git with the yes function so that Git can be installed. So Git is installed. Now if you run Git commands, it's showing a lot of verbose. Means Git is installed. You can also see the version of it with Git version. Right? So that's all. Git is installed. That's all. Git is installed on our server. Now we can create local repository, working directory, staging area, and start working on it. So shall we proceed? And one more thing, from today it's a 2-hour session, right? We'll be having a break here after 1 hour. Okay, and then we'll continue. Yeah, shall we have a break and come back? Yes, please, any questions, put your queries. While creating an instance, if you forget to download the key file, we can download it later as well. No, Pradeep, you cannot download the pen file later. You have to download it in the beginning itself. Any more questions? See, Git is really interesting tool, but if you are learning for the first time, there may be a bit confusion initially. If you learn it with clarity, it would be very much easy and you can play with Git. So we'll start working on it. Before that, we shall have a break and come back. Yeah, I'll leave the timer module back. So let's continue. Git is installed. Now let's start working with the Git. This page is stuck up. Let me refresh it. Yeah. So Git is there. Git is already installed. Now let us create a local repository. See, always refer to this diagram. We have seen the architectural diagram, right? Where is this architectural diagram? Even that is also there in the drive. I have shared it with you already. Just check it out once. The link or Git folder is there where you have the architectural diagram. Yes, the same architectural diagram is available in the drive. See here, before creating local repository, let me recollect the things. See, this is the green box, local repository I'm going to create now. Also, assuming there's nothing on remote, like there is no repositories on remote, I'm going to create a empty local repository. Okay, then develop the code base and then we'll push to remote. So that's the idea. Now let's create a local repository. But how to create that? First, choose some directory where you are going to place your projects. So cd is a Linux command, change directory. Slash indicates root folder. It's a folder, main folder, right? Under this root. So can you see the navigation? If you do pwd present working directory, we were inside the root directory. Now let's create a directory, mkdir, make directory. This is for whoever are new to Linux. But in few days, let's practice the Linux commands. Okay, you should be good using all these commands. I'm going to create a directory under this root. Let's say I'm creating a subdirectory here called git demo. The project name, the directory name is git demo. Yeah, it's a folder created. ls, it will list the files and folders. You can see git demo here. It's a directory created under root. Go to that directory, cd, change directory, git demo. So you are inside git demo. Can you see that? Whoever new to this cd mkdir commands, just with a little practice, you can get used to it. So, okay, fine. So I'm in the present working directory. 1 minute. Yeah. Can you see that? So now here I would like to place all my program files or the project files in this directory. Okay, so as of now I don't have any files here. See, I don't have any files. But yeah, I'm going to put all my program files here. So whichever directory whichever directory you are going to use as a local repository, or whichever directory where you are going to keep your program files, or whichever directory you want to get to track it, in that directory you should run a command called git init. Git init means initializing it or starting it, or else it's a way to tell Git, please track all the files in this particular directory. Okay, it's a way to telling Git that please track all the files in this particular directory. That's what is git init does. Yeah, let me run the command. See, it says initialize empty git repository dot git is created. Means whenever you started git, or else whenever you told git to track all the files in this particular directory, okay, it became local repository. And whenever you did git init, dot git is created. Means in whichever directory or whichever directory is having dot git, means this is nothing but local repository. Got it? Let me explain you that diagrammatically so that it should be very clear for you. Let me explain you this diagrammatically. See, there is a folder. Okay, there is a folder called git demo. I have created a folder called git demo. Then like I would like to place all my program files here. So in this directory, I have gone to this directory and done git init in this directory. In whichever directory you run this command, that directory becomes local repository. Now git demo is nothing but your local repository, right? So git demo is nothing but your local repository. Now if you keep any files here, any Java files or whatever files you keep here will be version controlled by Git. Got this point, all of you? Understood this? Understood how to create local repository? Just choose some directory wherever you are going to keep your program files. Go to that directory and do git init. That becomes a local repository. You can relate it with this diagram. Always keep this architectural diagram in your mind. Okay, this green box is the one I have created now. Local repository is created. Perfect. Yeah, but I'm not having any files here, right? Let us create some files. ls is showing nothing, means no files. Let me create a file here. Okay, you can create any program files or else simple text files will also do. I'm going to create a simple text file because here our idea is not to learn programming. Our idea is to learn how to version control those files. So I'm creating a simple text file called file1.txt. And by the way, what is Vim? Vim is an editor in Linux. Okay, Vim is an editor. Like you have some editors like Notepad, Word, documents in Windows. Vim is an editor in Linux. Vim and the file name, whichever you want to create, that will create a file and also it will launch the file. Yes? Yes, Teja, any questions? So use this Vim editor with the file name. The file will be opened. See, can you see this? Go to escape mode, escape I, insert mode. See how to work with this Vim editor. The commands are also here in the drive. In the same Google Drive, which I have given access. If you check here, edit the file with Vim. how to edit the file with Vim. You need to a little practice these commands, how to work with Vim, how to open the file, how to go to insert mode. All these are here. Okay, as you keep on practicing them, you can get used to it, right? So go to insert mode, escape I. Shortcuts are there. Escape I, you go to insert mode, write some line here. This is my first text file. Some dummy line I'm writing. Done. That's all is my file. If you want, you can write some Perl programs, C programs, whatever you want, if you are interested. And save it. Again, how do you save it? Escape, colon, WQ, exclamatory. Okay, see, don't get panic with these commands. Just a little practice with those shortcuts, you'll be all set. Escape, colon, WQ, exclamatory. That will save the file. Okay, what is that? Is the file saved? 1 second. If you want to check the contents of the file, cat is like a read command. Okay, it will read the content. So this is the line present in the file. Perfect. Okay, I have created a file. Okay, is the file getting tracked by Git or not? Okay, I have created the file in this directory. Is it getting tracked or not? If you want to see whether it is getting tracked or not, you can check the status with the command git status. See, it tells you untracked file, means the file is not getting tracked. It says file1.txt is there. Git knows there is a file, but it cannot track it. But Git is not tracking it. What you should do for it to track? See, it's giving you a clue. Nothing added to commit, but untracked file is present. Means the whole meaning of it is Git knows there is a file, but Git could not track it. Why? You should add the file. Means tell me, where is the file now? Some time back we discussed, right? Just creating a file means where is the file? We just created the file. So if you just created the file means the file is said to be in the working directory, isn't it? I just created the file. If you just created the file means it's said to be in the working directory. Means in our case here this git demo directory. This git demo directory is nothing but a working directory. The same directory is nothing but local repository. I just have shown you the architecture, right? And we discussed like this working directory, local repository is physically the same directory. It's physically the same, right? This is what it means. In our case, git demo is nothing but local repository. Git demo is nothing but working directory. But you just created a file means it's said to be in working directory. If you add it, it's said to be in staging area. The staging area is like a index area or else a virtual area where you can move your changes. Got it clear, all of you? Understood, everyone? Yeah. So now what you should do, it is in the working directory. What you should do? To move it to local, first you need to add it to staging area, isn't it? So how do you do that? Git add file1.txt. Right now again check the status, run the status command. Changes to be committed. Can you see that? Changes to be committed. You need to commit the changes. Means where is the file? Changes to be committed means say refer to this architectural diagram and tell me. Maniratan, Rakesh, everyone, can you try? Where is the file now after adding the file? I have run the command called git add. Now, in which location is the file?
Staging area.
Exactly, it's in the staging area. Now it's in the staging area, right? Got it, all of you. So Git is tracking it, but it's in the staging area. So it's giving a clue like changes to be committed. So how do you commit it? Git commit -m. M stands for message. You need to provide some message. Message is mandatory. Like some message, the message should be a bit descriptive so that you can understand at a later point of time what this commit is all about. So when you commit and run the status, working tree is clean, means all the changes were there in local repository now. Where are the changes now? Where is the file now? The file is in the local repository. Now I have committed, right? Yes, Avinash. So the file is now in the local repository. So this is what you have to understand. This is the very basic functionality of Git, but you should learn it with clarity so that you can work enjoying with Git. Right? So this is the file you have. Yeah, shall we repeat the same thing with another file so that everyone should be comfortable with this? Yeah, let me do the same with another file. I'm creating another file with the Vim editor, file2.txt. Yeah, let me add a line, go to insert mode. Let's say second file, some dummy line, whatever you want. Escape, WQ, exclamatory, save it. So file is created, done. So now tell me, where is this file to? Is it in the working directory or staging area or the local repository? Yes, Teja, Rakesh, everyone. Where is the file to? Is it in the working directory or staging area, local repository? Yes, Pradeep, correct. Let me check from everyone. Please, everyone be attentive and let me know. Yes, Avinash, correct. Where is the file now? Where is file2.txt? Exactly, it's in the working directory, right? Your file is in the working directory. If you want to make sure, see, ls will show the files in the working directory. Okay, git ls files will show the files in a local repository. Can you see that only file1 is shown? Because file2 is not there in local repository yet. Got the difference now? Understood the command git ls files, all of you? ls is listing the files in the directory, but git ls files will list the files in your working local repository. So file2 is not there. Also, at this point, if you do status untracked file, git knows there is a file, but it cannot track it because it is not added. So what you have to do? Git add file2, right? Add the file. Now check the status. Say changes to be committed. So what do you need to do now? Git commit -m. Let's say some message of our choice. Second commit. Whatever. Okay, done. Then now if you do the status, yes. Now all the changes are in local repository. Git ls files will show the files in the local repository. Understood everyone? Am I clear with this? Yeah. So that's how Git works. Like the basic architecture, like how your changes moves from working directory to staging area and then to local. This is how Git works. This is what you need to understand. And till now we have done some commits, right? For every commit, a commit ID will be generated. That particular commit history can be seen with the command git log. See, we did two commits. Every commit will generate this alphanumeric ID, a hash code, a unique hash code for every commit. And if you notice, it will also show you the author who made the changes because I'm logged in as root user, right? The timestamp, the commit message. This is what logging we need, right? What happened, what are all the changes that happened. This is how it will do, right? That's what git log command does. And to see the simple or a brief log, git log one line. Okay, that will show you if you don't want to see this detailed log, if you just want to see a brief log. See, you don't need to refer the entire commit ID. First 7 characters are enough. And the commit message, a brief log, which shows a commit history in short or else in brief. So these are the different commands and the basics, how you work with the Git. So always work with Git, comparing or else relating to this architectural diagram so that it should be very clear for you. Are you all good with this part? Everyone good with this? Yeah. Shall we proceed to the next scenario? Good to go. All of you following? So if you all are good with this, let us take up another interesting scenario. cd dot dot will help you again go to the root directory, but you should be running all the commands from local repository, which is git demo. Yeah. So now here, till now we have seen creating a new files. Shall we see modifying or editing the file? Yeah, shall we see editing the files? Means already file is there. What if modifications, we need to modify the files? How the modifications, isn't it? Let's see. Let's go to file one and modify it. See Vim file one, it will open this file one in the editor. So I have got the editor here. Now just come here. Let me add a line, a new line added. Okay, let me save this. Okay, done. So I have created a file. Sorry, I have made a modification to the file. Right? Just check the status at this point. What would be the status message showing us? Can anyone tell me? We have seen with two files by now, right? So what would be the status message showing us now? Like what message it would be giving us now?
Not tracking.
Okay, you mean it's not tracking, untracked. Untracked
Yes.
it will show if it is for the first time. But now it's not first time, right? File one is not a new file now. It's already added in the local repository. It's already there in local repository, right? So it will tell you changes not stage. Untracked if it is a new file. If you are if you have created the file for the first time, it will show like untracked. Now the file is getting tracked, but certain changes are not staged. Not staged means where are those changes? What are meant by not staged changes? Just see this diagram and tell me. A simple logic. Not staged changes means where are those changes? In which area are those changes? Not staged means.
Staging area.
Not staged.
Working directory.
Working directory, isn't it? Not staged. They were not staged means they were in the working directory. From working directory, once you add, they go to staging area. So the file is already there in local repository, but certain changes were not at staged. Okay, so they are in the working directory. Again, what you have to do? Again, you have to add and commit. Means the whole point here is Git works with respect to changes. Means whether you create a new file or whether you modify a file, again you have to add and commit. But there is a small change here. Let me show you the change. Yeah, it's not a new file, right? So again, but because you are modifying them, my system is a bit slow. Yeah. So the file is not a new file, right? But some changes are unstaged. So again, what you have to do, you have to add the file and commit the file. Okay, means you have to add the changes and commit. This is how you can do. Or else, because it's not a new file, you can also do this way. Git commit -a, add and commit. You can do this way also. Understood everyone? Because it's not a new file you can do. But if it is a new file, let's say it's an untracked file. Got the difference, Maniratan and everyone? Let's say if you are seeing here like it's an untracked file, you cannot do this with a single command. You have to do it separately. But because it's not a new file, file is already there in local repository, you can do this way. Am I making sense? Got this clear, all of you? Understood? Yeah. Let me commit now. Git commit -a means add. It will add and then commit. Let's say file modified, right? Can I run the command? Got the concept clear? Everyone, any help needed anywhere? If you are stuck up, let me know, please. So done. Now if you check the status, working tree is clean, right? So that's all. That's how you modify the files. That's how you keep working with the files. Understood? Got this clear also? So that's another scenario. Shall we take up another interesting scenario? Can I go for the next part? So this is how you add your changes from staging area to working directory to staging area, and from staging area to local repository. Let us take up another interesting scenario. But what I'll do is I'm creating again another file called file3.txt. I'm using Vim editor. Once the file is launched, escape I go to the insert mode. Let's say some line like another new text file and escape colon WQ exclamatory. Save the file, right? So you have got the file which is file3.txt. So I have created the file and made the file. So the same old story continues. Anyway, we already did this for 2 files, but let me commit another file. I need another file. So what would be the status message showing us now? What would be the status message giving us now? What message will it give us? Yeah,
Untracked file.
come again, please. Untracked file, exactly. It will be like untracked file because see, it's a new file, right? So what you have to do again the same way, like add the file, git add, and then git commit -m. Let's say third file or whatever. Third file. Okay, some dummy message. Done. Okay, now I would like to show you here an interesting scenario. Okay, done. Everything is committed. Perfect. The working repository is clean. Now I would like to modify this file3 again. Okay, I'm making modifications. Let me go there. I'm adding some line here, a new line. Okay, let me save this. So, okay, file3 I have added, and now tell me, is this file3 having any unstaged changes? Unstaged means not staged. Is this file3 having any unstaged changes or not? Yes or no? Obviously, it's having unstaged line. Second line is unstaged, isn't it? Yeah, there are some unstaged changes on the file. So if you do the status, see unstaged means not staged. Okay, perfect. See, to see the unstaged changes of any file, there is a command called git diff file name file3. That will show you the unstaged changes of the file. Can you see the unstaged change? It's showing with a green line. It's showing as a green line. Yeah, unstaged line, right? Oh, sorry, unstaged changes. Okay, perfect. It's having unstaged changes. Let me add those changes. File3 done. Okay, now tell me, is this file having any unstaged changes now? Just now I have staged it. Just now we have added it. There is no more unstaged change, isn't it? So git diff command will show you nothing. Okay, perfect. Changes were staged. Yeah, but to see the staged changes, the file is having staged change or not? Second line is staged. Can you see that? Git diff staged, the file name will show you the staged changes of the file, right? Done. And then let me also do one more thing here. Yeah, let me modify this file once again. Are you following the scenario? I'm adding one more line here. Another new line, let's say Okay, done. Another new line. Okay, I have created some other line there. Now tell me, is this file, is the like file3.txt having any unstaged changes or not? Which line is unstaged? Yes, which line is unstaged here? Exactly. Line 3 is unstaged. If you just go here, can you see that? Third line is not staged. It's an unstaged line, right? And the file is also having staged changes, isn't it? Some changes were staged, some changes were unstaged. Staged changes means it was there in the staging area, second line, but it was not in the local repository. Am I clear for all of you? Following, get a diff file name will show you unstaged changes of the file which are in the working directory. Get a diff stage will show you staged changes of the file like which were in your staging area, right? So the same file is having some changes unstaged, some changes staged. At this point, if you do the status command, yeah, see here changes to be staged, right? Some changes to be staged means, changes to be committed means they are in the staging area. Changes not staged means they are in the working directory. Means the same file could be shown under both staged and unstaged area this way. Means whenever you see status, if the same file name is shown under both staged and unstaged, don't get confused. This could be the reason. Am I clear, all of you? Got this clear, everyone? A quick confirmation will help you. So this is how you can work with your file, staged changes, unstaged changes, and so on. So because there were some staged and unstaged changes, if I want to place everything in local repository, what I can do? Git commit -a -m, and here you can give the message like changes on local repository, or else a text file modified, some message. Right, done. Now if you check the status, it says working tree is clean. Right? So see, in the can be understanding the concepts you can follow here. Okay, definitely do the hands-on after the class, or else when class is going on, you can try to do hands-on. Okay, so that you will gain confidence. Definitely do the hands-on. Hands-on is mandatory. Every day, make sure you are doing the hands-on. First, do whatever things we execute in the class. Okay, once complete your hands-on, like whatever we did in the class, and also try different scenarios from your end. And I'll be providing some scenarios as we go by. That's how you learn in a better method. So all the changes are done. And we have got some 3 files. See, till now we were creating the files. Shall we see deleting the files? Yeah. Shall we try to delete some files? Yeah, let's see. To delete any file, git rm file name. What this command will do? Git rm file name will delete the file both from working directory and local repository. So git rm file name. Let's run this. It says it removed the file. See, when you do ls, there's no file. Also check the files in local repository. Files in the local repository can be seen with the command git ls files. See, there is no file 3. Right, it's gone. Now check the status. See, we made a change, right? I already mentioned Git always works with respect to the changes. Whether you make a change could be creating a file or a deleting a file or a modifying a file, whatever it is. So if you check the status, changes to be committed. Changes to be committed. Whenever you make any change, you need to make sure you are making the commit. You are committing those changes with a git commit -m and some message like deleted some text file. Right? some message. Now you can see the status. The file is gone. And also you can check the log. Git log one line will give you the brief history of the commits happened. Right? We are doing a bunch of commits in our repository, in our folder. Right? So this is one way of deleting the file. Shall we do deletion in another method? Yeah. See, we have used the command like git rm. 1 minute. Let me show you the history of the commands. Yeah. Can you see this git rm, the file name? Yeah. This will delete the file both from working directory and local repository. But I want to delete only the file from local repository. I want to keep it again in working directory. See, whenever I'm saying working directory, local repository, please keep this in your mind. Okay, just imagine this way. Now what I'm saying, I want to remove the file from local repository, but just keep it on a working directory. Understood the scenario? Got the scenario, all of you? So how to do that? Just come here. Yeah. Now what I want is I would like to delete the file from local repository, but not from working directory. There is a command called git rm cache, the file name, file2.txt. What it will do, it will delete the file from local repository. Let's see. See, the file is still there in working directory. ls will show the files in working directory. If you do git ls files, see, it's no more in the local repository. Got the difference, all of you, what git rm cache does? Got it clear, everyone? Understood? So yeah, it deleted the file only from local repository, but still you have the file on working directory. Yeah. And also at this point, if you see the status, obviously changes to be committed. Like I told you, right? Whenever you make any change, git commit -m, let's say file from local deleted. Okay, some message. Done. Now if you see the status, file, okay, before status, see, file is there in working directory, but file will not be present in local repository. And whenever you do the status, you are seeing this message. Why are you seeing this message? Untracked file, file2. Why are we seeing this kind of message? Anyone? If you have understood thoroughly, you can answer this question. Why are we seeing this message untracked files file2?
It is in the working directory.
Exactly, Avinash. Yes, it's in the working directory, isn't it? File is present in the working directory. It's like again a new file. See, when you create a new file, when you place in a working directory, if you did not add and commit, that's how it will be shown, right? Like untracked file. So it's working like again a new file because you have deleted it from local repository. Understood, everyone? Got it clear, all of you? Am I clear? So this is how you can manage. See, actually, this is all done when you are managing your files, maybe as a developer or else as a tester, irrespective of whether you are a developer or tester or anyone. If you are managing your files, this is how like you will be working with your files and place them in a version control systems like Git. See, first we are learning it from the perspective of managing the code base. Okay, once we are perfect using this way, we'll be, it means once we learn like how to use Git for managing our files, then we'll talk about, then we'll go for the Git integration in the pipeline, where Git comes in the pipeline, how to connect it with Maven and all. We'll learn each tool one by one, then we'll keep on integrating them. So am I clear, all of you? Understood this, everyone? So do the complete hands-on. I'll be providing you the recording of every day. Go through it once again. If you are completely new, you should get familiarized with the terminology. So please watch the recordings, do some hands-on. Any questions, I have added you people to the Slack. So you can reach me via Slack. I have created a channel so that you can post your queries. Other participants can respond so that you can stay connected. You can get your queries resolved as soon as possible. So any more questions from your end? See, you have to do hands-on on these basic before we proceed to the advanced concepts. Tomorrow we'll step into the advanced concepts in it. Before that, if you have any questions, any concerns, anything else, please let me know. You can unmute yourself and you can speak out. Like any questions you have in the whole topic done, anything you have, let me know, please.